It's Mabel. I'm 83 years old, and for the past 12 years, I've watched the world from a window.
It's not a grand window, mind you, just a small square one, the kind with a white frame and a smudge in the bottom corner that never quite goes away, no matter how hard I scrub. But it faces the street, and that's enough. I've lived in this old brick house since 1964. It creaks when the wind blows, sighs when it rains, and groans a little when I walk across the hallway floor. But it's mine. It was ours once, mine and Harold's. We bought it when we were just 30 and full of foolish dreams, back when he still sang in the mornings and I still believed in forever. Harold passed 15 years ago. Lung cancer, quick, cruel, left me holding a mug of cold tea the morning the doctor called. After the funeral, people came, casseroles in hand, hugs on standby. They meant well, but one by one they stopped showing up, stopped calling, stopped needing me. My days grew quieter, then silent. So I found myself drawn to that window. I dragged a cushion from the old armchair, set it on the bench below the sill, and each morning after tea and pills, I take my seat, just me and the world, though the world never looked back. Till one day it did. It was a Wednesday. I remember because the postman, Gary, always delivers junk mail on Wednesdays. He has been with the route for 20 years now, bless him, still wears those old tan shorts no matter the weather. That morning, while I sat watching the rain dribble down the glass, I saw movement across the street. A little girl, maybe 6, 7 years old. She was standing barefoot in the front yard of the rental house that had been empty since December. She had wild curls and one of those oversized jackets that swallowed her arms whole. She looked up, straight at me, and she waved. I blinked. For a moment, I wasn't sure she was waving at me at all. Nobody ever did. But she smiled, the kind of smile that warms your bones on a gray morning. I raised my hand, slow and cautious, and waved back. Her grin widened. She bounced on her heels like she'd won a prize. Then, just as quickly, she ran back inside. I sat there for a long time afterward, hands still lifted, heart thudding. It was the first time in years that someone looked at me and saw me. The next day, she returned, this time with sidewalk chalk. I watched her from my little perch, sipping my tea as she drew stars and suns and strange little animals all over the pavement. Every few minutes, she'd glance up at my window. I didn't realize I was smiling until my cheeks began to ache. When she caught me watching, she waved again, big and bold. So I waved back. Then she pointed to the ground and held up a piece of pink chalk like an offering. She couldn't see the tears that welled in my eyes. Childlike gestures shouldn't hurt, but when your world has been quiet too long, even the smallest sound can feel deafening. Her name, I learned later, was Lily. I only knew that because she began leaving notes. On the third morning, there was a folded piece of paper tucked beneath a rock on my front porch, scrawled in purple crayon, "To the lady in the window. I'm Lily. You have kind eyes. I don't know what hit harder, the fact that someone noticed my eyes, or the way her little letters always started with 'To the lady in the window,' like I was some mysterious figure in a fairy tale. I wrote back, of course, tucked a note under the same rock the next morning. Hello, Lily. Thank you for your letter. I like your drawings. They make the world feel happy again, and so began our secret correspondence. Every few days, a new note, sometimes with stickers, sometimes with pressed flowers, always with love. Spring melted into summer. My garden bloomed, though I hadn't tended it in years. Strange how things wake up when you start looking at the world again. Lily would wave each morning before school, sometimes with a new drawing, sometimes just a goofy face pressed to the glass of her own front window. Her joy was contagious. I started brushing my hair again, putting on lipstick, wearing Harold's favorite brooch, just in case she was watching. One morning I heard a knock at the door. I hadn't had a knock in months. My heart did that fluttery thing it does when you're caught off guard. I smoothed my sweater and opened it. Lily's mother stood there, nervous smile on her face. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said. Lily talks about you all the time." "The window lady," she says. I laughed, hand over my chest. "The window lady. That's a new one. She's quite taken with you. I just wanted to thank you. She's had a rough time adjusting here. Her dad and we're not together anymore. The move's been hard." I nodded. I didn't need her to explain. Pain has a way of introducing itself before words ever do. "Well," I said softly, "she's a lovely girl, brightens my day more than she knows." She smiled, eyes glossy. "Would you ever want to meet her in person?" I hesitated. My world had been so small for so long, safe, predictable. But when I saw Lily waving from the sidewalk, her little hands flapping like wings, "Yes," I whispered, "I'd like that very much." We started having porch visits, nothing fancy, just lemonade and cookies, and stories passed back and forth like warm bread. Lily told me about school, about her hamster named Cheese, about how she hated math but loved clouds. I told her about Harold, about how he used to hum old jazz tunes while fixing the fence, about how he'd sneak flowers into my apron pocket just to make me smile. She'd giggle, legs swinging from the porch steps. "You miss him, don't you?" she asked once, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. Tears came easier now, but they hurt less. "Yes, sweetheart." Every day she took my hand and squeezed it, tiny fingers wrapping around mine like ivy. "It's okay. I miss my daddy too." We didn't say much after that, but silence, I've learned, can be healing when shared. The weeks passed in quiet joy. Lily became my morning sun. She'd wave, dance, draw funny faces on the window with washable markers just to make me laugh. Once she drew a rainbow that stretched from her window to mine. "See," she called, "now we're always connected." I had to go inside before she saw me crying. Then one morning she didn't come. I waited and waited, but the sidewalk was empty. The next day, nothing. And the day after that. The house across the street sat quiet, curtains drawn, mailbox overflowing. My heart, that foolish, hopeful thing, sank like a stone. Had they moved? Had something happened? I couldn't ask. I didn't know how. So I sat in that old window seat and waited every day for a week, 2. And then on the 15th day, a letter appeared, taped to my door in careful handwriting. "Dear Miss Mabel, I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye. Mommy had to go take care of my grandma, and we had to leave fast. But I wanted you to know you were the best part of my neighborhood. You made me feel seen, like I mattered. I'll never forget you." P. The rainbow still works. Just close your eyes and smile. I clutched that letter like it was the last warm thing in the world, and for a while I grieved. The silence felt heavier than before, the window colder. My days long and still, but Something had changed. Lily had left, but her light hadn't. She taught me how to open the curtain, how to look out and in. And I realized something. The window wasn't where I watched the world, it was where I rejoined it. I still sit there every morning, but now sometimes I see more than cars and mail trucks. I see people, and sometimes they see me too. A teenager walking by will give me a wave. A mother with a stroller smiles. A boy on a scooter leaves a flower on my porch. I don't know all their names, but I smile anyway because I've learned a small gesture can save a quiet soul. And sometimes you don't need to be loud to be remembered. Spring gave way to summer again, another year gone, and yet the light through the window still felt the same, soft, golden, like memory. Lily never came back. I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd see her again, running down the sidewalk in that too big jacket, a new drawing in hand, but the house across the street stayed empty for months. A quiet blue thing fading at the corners like an old photograph. Still, I kept watching. Because that's what you do, isn't it? When your heart still remembers how to hope. One Tuesday morning, a moving truck pulled up. I watched from the window seat as boxes tumbled out, a tall man with shaggy hair barking into his phone, and a boy, maybe 10, maybe 11, dragging a lamp that looked older than he was. The boy glanced up at my house, then quickly looked away. I recognized that look. It was the same one I wore when I first lost Harold. The look of someone who doesn't know if they'll ever feel at home again. That evening, I left a small tin of cookies on their porch. No note, no fuss, just a welcome. The next morning, the tin was gone, replaced with a scrap of notebook paper folded in half. Thanks. Just one word, but it was enough. Days passed. The boy, his name was Jamie, I later learned, walked to school every morning with a backpack nearly as big as him. He always looked down, always walked alone. But then one day I waved. He didn't wave back, not right away. He just stopped, looked at me, brows furrowed, unsure. I smiled, just a soft thing, not too wide. He stared a moment longer, then slowly, he lifted his hand. It was a stiff little wave, but it was something. I nodded and went back to my tea. We didn't speak for weeks, but the wave became routine. Morning wave, afternoon glance, evening pause, and then one morning he didn't walk past. He stood at the edge of my sidewalk, fidgeting, like he wasn't sure what to do next. I opened the window, the first time I had in ages, and called gently, "You all right, dear?" He looked up, startled, then gave a tiny nod. "I'm Jamie," he said. "I'm Mabel." Silence. Then he asked, "Was that you? The cookies?" I nodded. They were good. "I'm glad." Another silence. Then he shuffled, looked down at his shoes, and said, "Sometimes I think nobody sees me." My throat tightened. I looked him square in the eye and said, "I do." That's how it started again, not with laughter or crayons or rainbows, but with shared silence and a boy who needed to be seen. Jamie started stopping by after school, not every day, but enough. He'd sit on the porch steps, legs too long for his age, and talk about small things. Math tests, his old town, the way his dad didn't call much anymore. Sometimes he wouldn't talk at all. He'd just sit there, arms around his knees, and I'd sit beside him with a cup of lemonade and a quiet heart. He didn't need advice. He just needed a place where the world didn't ask him to be anything. One day, he brought a shoebox. Inside was a tiny, scrappy kitten, all ears and bones. "She was under the stairs," he said. I think she's alone." I looked at the little creature trembling in the box. Well, I said, then I guess she needs someone too. We named her Pickle. She lived on my porch from then on, curled up in an old blanket I'd saved from Harold's workshop. Jamie came by every day to feed her, to pet her, to sit with her, and somehow through her, he healed. And so did I. The thing about kindness is that it doesn't end where you think it will. It ripples. Lily had reached me, and now I was reaching Jamie. One morning, I found a small envelope on my porch, Jamie's handwriting still a bit crooked. Thank you for the window. I smiled and cried all at once. A year passed. Jamie grew taller, started riding a bike, got louder in the best way. He still waved every morning, but one evening he knocked on the door, a little more serious than usual. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever miss her? The girl, the one you watched before Lily? He nodded, all the time. She must have been special. She was, I said, but so are you. He looked down, cheeks turning pink. I think you're kind of like a lighthouse, he said. Oh, you just sit there, but people see you, and they feel safe. That night, I held his words to my chest like prayer beads, but time always moves. One autumn morning, I woke with a weight in my chest. Hard to breathe, hard to move. The doctor said it was my heart. Old, tired, worn from loving too long, perhaps. They suggested a care home, somewhere I could be watched, but I'd spent my life watching. This house, this window, it was my rhythm, my memory. I wasn't ready to leave it, not yet, so I stayed. And Jamie stayed too. He brought me groceries, fed Pickle, read aloud from books he thought I'd like. He grew right before my eyes. One day he said, I want to be a writer. I smiled. You already are, dear. You just haven't written it all down yet. Eventually, I knew. I could feel it in my bones. My time was nearing, but I wasn't afraid. I'd been seen, loved, remembered, and in that knowing, there was peace. I wrote 2 final letters, one for Lily, one for Jamie. I left them in the box beside the window. Jamie found his the next morning after I was gone. Dear Jamie, you brought light to my final years, more than I can ever say. Keep writing, keep seeing people, keep being the lighthouse, and remember, the world changes when we notice each other. Love, Mabel. Jamie didn't speak for a long time after they took me away. But weeks later, he returned to the house, sat on the porch, opened the window, looked out, and smiled. He lives there now, fixed up the place, sits in the window every morning with a cup of tea and a notebook on his lap. Children wave, neighbors smile. Sometimes he reads his stories aloud to the cat curled at his feet. And if you pass by on a quiet evening, you might hear him whisper, "Thank you, Miss Mabel." And if you believe in such things, you might feel her there, in the breeze, in the light through the glass, in the warmth of being seen, because that's what a window really is, dear one. A place to watch, a place to wait, a place where a quiet soul can change a life.